Grave news. Sir Walter Bullivant takes Henry at his word, but fears Scudder's findings may have been a little off track. Let's see what it is. Well, we will see. I have no idea. Well, right now it seems like it. Sir Walter awaited me in the dining room. Beside of him, so respectable and established and secure, the embodiment of law and government and all the conventions, took me aback and made me feel an interloper. Getty. He couldn't know the truth about me, or he wouldn't treat me like this. I simply could not accept his hospitality on false pretenses.
I'm more obliged to you than I can say, but I'm bound to make things clear. I'm an innocent man, but I'm wanted by the police. I've got to tell you this, and I won't be surprised if you kick me out.
That's all right. Don't let that interfere with your appetite. We can talk about these things after dinner.
It made me almost hysterical to be sitting there, waited on by a footman and a sleek butler, and remember that I had been living for 3 weeks like a brigand, with every man's hand against me. Then we went to his study for coffee. I made up my mind that if ever I got rid of this business and had a house of my own, I would create just such a room. Then when the coffee cups were cleared away and we had got our cigars alight, he bade me get started with my yarn.
I've obeyed Harry's instructions, and the bribe he offered me was that you would tell me something to wake me up. I'm ready, Mr. Hannay.
I noticed with a start that he called me by my proper name. Ripping John, how it began. I told of my boredom in London and the night I had come back to find Scudder gibbering on my doorstep. I told him all Scudder had told me about the Carolides and the Foreign Office conference that made him purse his lips and grin. Murder. Then I got to the murder and he grew solemn again. He heard all about the milkman and my time in Galloway and my deciphering Scudder's notes at the inn. He drew a breath when I whipped a little book from my pocket. Meeting Sir Harry. To describe my meeting with Sir Harry and the speeches at the hall, that he laughed uproariously. Roadman. My day as the roadman excited me a bit. Made me describe the two fellows in the car very closely, and seemed to be raking back in his memory. He grew merry again when he heard of the fate of that ass Jopley. Black Stone. The old man in the Moorland house solemnized him. Again I had to describe every detail of his appearance.
You may dismiss the police from your mind. You're in no danger from the law of this land.
Great Scott. Have they got the murderer?
No. But for the last fortnight, they've dropped you from the list of possibles.
Why?
Principally because I received a letter from Scudder. I knew something of the man, and he did several jobs for me. He was half crank, half genius, but he was wholly honest. Trouble about him was his partiality for playing a lone hand. That made him pretty well useless in any secret service. A pity. for he had uncommon gifts. I think he was the bravest man in the world, for he was always shivering with fright, and yet nothing would choke him off. I had a letter from him on the 31st of May.
But he had been dead a week by then.
The letter was written and posted on the 23rd. He evidently did not anticipate an immediate decease. His communications usually took a week to reach me, for they were sent undercover to Spain and then to Newcastle. He had a mania, you know, for concealing his tracks.
He got up and crossed the room to a cabinet, bringing back Scudder's letter. Huh. Okay. Sir Walter, I am in the gravest danger. My worst fears have been realized. My enemies are here in London. They have made themselves known. I cannot write more in case these words be intercepted, but I have found shelter with a good friend who lives near Portland Place. God willing, you will hear from me before the 15th of June. Your servant Franklin P. Scudder.
I think his object was to clear you if anything happened. But when I got it, I went to Scotland Yard, went over the details of the inquest, and concluded that you were the friend. We made inquiries about you, Mr. Hannay, and found you were respectable. I thought I knew the motives for your disappearance, not only the police, the other one, too. And when I got Harry's scrawl, I guessed at the rest. I've been expecting you any time this past week.
Thank heavens.
You can imagine what a load this took off my mind. I felt a free man once more.
Now, let us have the little notebook.
It took us a good hour to work through it. His face was very grey before he had finished, and he sat silent for a while.
I don't know what to make of it. He's right about one thing. What is going to happen the day after tomorrow? How the devil can it have got known? That is ugly enough in itself. But all this about war and the Black Stone, it reads like some wild melodrama. If only I had more confidence in Scudder's judgment. Trouble about him was that he was too romantic. He had the artistic temperament and wanted a story to be better than God meant it to be. He had a lot of odd biases, too. Jews, for example, made him see red. Jews and the high finance. The Black Stone. Der Schwarze Stein. Yeah, it's like a penny novelette. And all this stuff about Karolides. That is the weak part of the tale, for I happen to know that the virtuous Karolides is likely to outlast us both. There's no state in Europe that wants him gone. Besides, he's just been playing up to Berlin and Vienna and giving my chief some uneasy moments. No. Scudder's gone off the track there. Frankly, Hannay, I don't believe that part of his story. There's some nasty business afoot, and he found out too much and lost his life over it. But I'm ready to take my oath that it's ordinary spy work. A certain great European power makes a hobby of her spy system, and her methods are not too particular. Since she pays by piecework, her blackguards are not likely to stick at a murder or two. They want our naval dispositions for their collection at the Marineamt. But they'll be pigeonholed. Nothing more.
There's a trunk call from London, Sir Walter. It's Mr. Reith, and he wants to speak to you personally.
My host went off to the telephone. I took the bottle of scotch and... Huh? He returned in 5 minutes with a whitish face.
I apologize to the shade of Scudder. Karolides was shot dead this evening at a few minutes after 7.
Mm-hmm. It did happen.